Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mindful Podcast. And today we have got Jay. Jay is a well-being officer, and I'm not going to lie, it was such an educational podcast today. Like, it was just so good. We never really dove too much about Jay's story and anything like that. It was about the work that he does and how he helps other people. We covered stuff as like a well-being budget, which is a change in perspective from economic to well-being wealth. A co-produced self-empowered health pathway. Health and well-being as a common language that connects us. People above profit and prioritising our health and well-being. Jay talks about the work that he does, the clients that he comes across, but then also much more in depth about everything that comes underneath the umbrella of health, well-being, mental state, physical state. It's good. It's educational and it's impressive. He speaks so well, and it was just a really, really boss episode. So please enjoy, and I'll see you all at the end. So, Jay.
Yeah.
How are we, sir? How are you?
Good. Yeah, not too bad. How are you?
I'm not too bad, I'm not too bad. We finally got started.
Yeah.
Joe. Yeah, we finally got started, but, I'm happy that you turned up today. You've had a nice little catch up with the neighbour, Ray.
Yeah, a nice surprise there, Ray in the kitchen, so
yeah.
It's always good talking to Ray, so that was nice.
So, obviously, you've just told us before how you know Ray, and this is not going to be about Ray, but just give us a bit of an in-depth of, like, what you do, and, like, kind of the bit of background about yourself, stuff like that.
I think that's how we got connected, was through my role that I'm doing, I'll get into in a bit. Ray come to me, and we started doing like a little physical activity program based around mental and physical well-being. So, my whole approach is making it an individually based kind of thing. So looking after what's important for you, what your motivations are, what will resonate with you long term, making things sustainable. So you get to know people along that little pathway. So me and Ray got a really good connection. We got talking. So without going into health conditions, Ray had things that he was working around, which we kind of did. And then we used, obviously, the gym as a vehicle or a platform for him to do that. But a lot of it was working around what would be more suitable for him. And then he said, right, me neighbours set up a little podcast there. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then I think you reached out, and here we are. So
yeah, because Ray, as Jay has just said, he is my neighbour. So in case anyone's going, who the hell's Ray right now? He gave me your email. And I was saying before to that, Jay, this is going to be so confusing. He was saying, like, have you emailed him yet? And I was like, no, I keep forgetting him. And I was going, I just need to email him. Like, I need to just sit down, do it, and just get it done, because I keep putting it off without meaning to put it off. It was just absolutely mental. But what is it that you're actually, like, your job title?
So, the role that I'm doing now is called the Health Intervention Officer, which sounds very, very formal, but that's kind of come off the back of me working as a health and wellbeing practitioner. So working in gyms like for 15 years. I've worked with all kinds of different populations. So years ago I was doing stuff with like elite level swimmers. So I was working with like kind of competition and kind of performance driven stuff. From that, I've gone into general stuff, so people just coming into gyms, working with people who just want to, do the typical stuff, and then from that, gone into like clinical populations, so people who want to come in for health conditions, and most of them get sent via their healthcare professional, so a GP or physiotherapist, occupational therapist will come in, and it tends to be local authority kind of like centres. And then we'll do like a little kind of physical activity program that will obviously improve their health condition. So that was the bit that really I locked in at. So with all that kind of journey of the different populations, I really got into the notion of like kind of like looking after people through physical activity in light of the consequences of not doing that. And then with working in a really, really busy environment. So, it was it's a very busy centre where I was at, so you're getting like 5,000 people coming through the actual gym per week. It's busy. Ooh. And the centre itself's like absolutely heaving. So you get this incredible turnaround of like kind of getting to know people, know the community. You get very, very efficient with how you can address certain issues, and it becomes like a real, it's a lovely environment to work in. So from that, I kind of recognised the potential to like, that should be what I'm motivated and passionate at doing should be a little bit more kind of like encouraged. There should be something in there where we're able to look after people's health before they need serious kind of interventions later on the line, knee replacements, hip replacements, medication. All these things are valid health avenues for people. But if we can prevent them getting there before they get there, that was an area that I really, really felt was kind of under-addressed. So I went back to uni. I did like an undergraduate degree to kind of like round off my skills academically, and that was a big investment because obviously finance, you've got to pay for that. And we were talking before, that me schooling wasn't like terribly amazing. I was undiagnosed dyslexic, so I was constantly in remedial sets. You know, academia was not like something that was encouraged, or certainly like, you know, I'd never been an academic mind. You know, I'd not been allowed to use those skills. So I went back to uni, did an undergraduate degree, ended up getting a first class degree with obviously working full time, having life commitments you do in your late 30s. So came top of the cohort, and it coincided that lockdown hit just as that kind of like, you know, that was the situation I was at. And one of the hypothetical programs that I'd submitted was the initial stages of this health intervention program. So service stopped, the world stopped, and I'd approached an amazing guy called Josh Carrington, who'd just come into the health and wellbeing lead in the council. So he'd come over, I'd sent him this hypothetical program, and then whilst everything was closed, we'd programmed doing a pilot scheme. So when everything reopened, we were ready to go with this kind of like program. You know, so we had the academic literature, we had the practical application of what led me to kind of revisit education, and then now we had an opportunity to deliver. Mm-hmm. So that's how that came about. So obviously when everything kind of reopened, I'd done 2 days a week doing delivering the scheme, and then that turned into an opportunity to do it a little bit more like full time. So that was only, so the 16 years leading up to that was only last October, October 22. So it's been like, you know, a steady build, but it's got to a place now where there's like a little bit of more of a formal structure to it. So that's where it's kind of like come from. So I know it's a long-winded answer to your first question, but it's good to get paint the full picture, isn't it? So that's how it kind of came about.
Love that. So what is it that made you want to go down the route of working in the gym, helping these kind of people?
So initially, I think going back to people having, you know, it's not a terribly good time in school. It's quite common, isn't it, that people become quite engaged in sport and physical activity. So that was always a thread through my life, was like making sure that I enjoyed moving, got into, you know, sports as I was younger. Then you do the usual stuff, don't you, where you kind of get a little bit social and get a little bit, you know, into other things, and so I went a bit far into that direction, and then kind of bit of an all or nothing where I jumped right back over into like really, you know, got really into training, got really into Thai boxing, got really into boxing, really into all of the, you know, different things that were going on, and then I was like, right, let's see if I can, because complete change of direction, and I was like, right, let's, you know, have a little look at doing this as a job. So I went all the way from the bottom there. So I'd done like a lifeguard qualification, then got level 2 gym instructor, which, you know, I was doing myself, home study type of thing, done me PT stuff. And then that got into like the practice of it. So it was all nice and dead organic, learning from, you know, a different kind of route, but that's how I got into it. And then, as I said, like as I really kind of seeded into that environment and got really kind of settled, that's when I was like, you start to feel really comfortable with how you can bring out people's health in different kind of ways by getting to know their individual situation, their backstory, their motivations. And I think that's obviously the area that I'm really, really looking to explore further, is how we can, like, instead of people falling into fitness, you know, like going on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, doing whatever you're going to be doing, getting told, prescribed different things. It's like, what's going to work for you? What's your situation? How can this fit in your life, like long term? And I think that's something that's not really explored too much. So we've got the fitness industry, which is very, very driven by products and services. Whether that's going to be supplementation, programs, it's all going to be stuff that's going to be geared around people buying something. And then you've got well-being, which I think is very, very much the holistic stuff. So all the stuff that goes on the outside. So things that you kind of get to with a little bit of experience of doing stuff. When you're younger, you apply yourself, you go really hard, you go really intense, you go all that. And then something goes and you're like, oh, I wish I would have listened to that before I put another 400 miles on that knee or whatever it's going to be. So I think having that kind of experience factor, you go from the fitness into kind of well-being. It's quite a natural progression. So that's what got me into the whole fitness world, and then it's kind of evolved into this a lot. Maybe it's older experience. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely more taken into account. All the as you get more experience in life, you get more responsibilities, you get kids, families, time, everything gets completely crammed. So that time that you have for yourself that may have been prioritised for self-care or fitness or whatever, that gets squashed, you know what I mean? So there's other things that kind of take place, other things, but to have the, to find that common thread of health and well-being in your life, mental and physical, I think it can be a shared journey. So someone can talk to you, hey, have you heard about this that's going on there? And that might help you. And we're just catching up with Ray then again about different little bits that you can pull people back into some direction, because you're immersed in it. I think when you work in a specific field, you should be passionate and you should be experienced about how to direct other people to be able to still keep engaged and still keep passionate about those things. So yeah.
Nice.
Quick question.
Go ahead, go for it.
What was your motivation in wanting to help people? What motivated you to want to help people? Obviously, you've done it all for yourself, but why did you think I want to help people too?
I think that's a good question, because motivation for whatever you're going to do is key. It's a constant theme, isn't it? So I think like I said, from going from the elite stuff with the high performance kind of squads into little old ladies who are kind of getting themselves fit and active, so they're going to have more power or more independence to go up the stairs and go and see whatever, get their shopping done. So for me, the motivating factors to that was that's really important, to make sure that people have got their own empowerment to make sure they can do the things that are important to them. And then by making those things happen, you get a real positive buzz from that, don't you? Kind of letting people being able to, go off on, get medical insurance or go off on an extended leave or work towards all different things that are going to keep them out of a non-empowered position. So that's what motivated me, is being able to deliver something which is, in effect, it's quite low cost, isn't it? You're not looking at getting these mad, crazy technological advancements. You're we'll do this little band exercise.
Yeah. It sounds like you're giving people back their independence.
That's key.
It sounds like
a key
giving
concept.
People back that ability to get on with their life. Or
I think we're going there to fitness and well-being. I think if we put sickness and well-being, right? So illness, sickness, all those things are very disempowering. You're not able to do things. It might put you in a situation where you're not able to express yourself in a physical and then a non-physical way. So that's going to lead into all kinds of different things where the world gets smaller, it's more intimidating, you kind of stepping away.
I was going to say, there's a quote, isn't it? You'd rather prevent it than fix the problem.
Well, one of
that's a
so prevention rather than cure.
Yeah,
and that's something I really do.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. It's about being proactive rather than reactive.
Well, that's exactly right. So these themes come about. So I think going to that theme there, I think sickness is we've got a reactive way that we deal with sickness. So you might have had certain situations that meant you've not been able to move as much as you want to do, which is going to mean that your kind of cardiovascular system is going to be taking a hit, which is going to mean long term that you might be having some kind of cardiac situation going on. So, but to prevent that from happening, you can find out why people are not able to move as much as they want, and maybe give them options, which is going to prevent that from happening. And talking on prevention, it's so what's classed in the clinical world, non-communicable diseases. So those are medical situations that people get through not being as physically active as they could be or want to be. So arthritis, type 2 diabetes, these things. In this country, in the UK, inactive or the kind of financial consequence of not doing activity is £7.4 billion a year.
Because of the ripple effect.
Because of everything, all the associated stuff. So in terms of like not allowing people to do things that are free, that are good for you, going to make you feel better, the negative effect of that is 7.4 billion, right? So I know it's a dead simple approach here, but think how you could spend that money.
And the health, like people's health.
So
7.5 billion, and also people's health.
So people's health. So if you think about that as being something, so that like we know there's whole fleets of like kind of like in any type of evidence you're looking for, whether it's going to be talking, so kind of like anecdotally we can have a conversation. Yeah, I went to Dingo's gym the other day. I did that good thing. I felt really good, and that day went boss, and it went that. Or I didn't go to the gym, or I didn't do that walk up Movana. Had a terrible day. Didn't do what I was going to do. You got the consequence of not doing that physical activity. So we know that anecdotally it works, right? We know that there's millions of academic papers out there, peer-reviewed papers of top-reviewed kind of like researchers who are saying physical activity is good for your mental and physical health. So we've got an absolute value there. We've got one truth, which is saying that we know that this is going to benefit pretty much anyone. You know what I mean? Any situation that you're in, individually or whatever your situation is, that if we can implement some kind of physical activity in your life, it's going to improve your physical and non-physical health. So we've got that as a like something that we can work off. We're like, okay, that's true, that's real, that's unquestioned. So how do we make that relevant? How do we make that accessible for everyone else? And that's the thing, isn't it? So that's the little strategy. Is how do you make that relevant for that? Accessible for everyone. And that just takes a little bit of going back to the individual thing. It takes a little bit of a conversation about how do you access that? How can you do that? And that's where we need to just take the time to get to know people, get to know what's available, get to know what's there. And if you have a little kind of indent in that massive the valuation of like the cost of inactivity, if you're taking away 4% off that, that's a hospital. You know, that's a school. That's 748 doctors. You know what I mean? So if you're putting to like one of the things I put down, if you're doing a well-being budget, you're putting a value on what it is to just be nice to people and make sure that they can access physical activity. So that's I think the perspective that I'm coming at is like, and it's becoming a bit clearer, is like, right, by doing these things that might have been a bit, they might have not been necessarily associated with like, you know, oh, we've got a terrible bill here, there's loads of people being fit and inactive, it's their fault. It's like, well, we've got opportunities here to make it a bit of a success story by allowing people to be more physically active. And that's a little bit overemphasized in Liverpool. So like where we are, like 64% cuts from central government. So in since we've had a change of government, imagine your like budget for your house was diminished by 64%. What do you sacrifice? Do you know what I mean? What do you say? We can't do that. So that shit, hey, you know, that gym you love going to, you can't go there no more because like we've got to buy food there. Do you know what I mean? So that's the same thing, isn't it? So central government funding regionalised local authorities, but if they're cutting it, which is through no fault of our own, so if they're cutting those kind of like those budgets, then there's a negative effect to what services are available, and because they class things, don't they? So you've got mandatory things that have to be provided and non-mandatory things that don't have to be provided. So sport, physical activity is classed as non-mandatory because we haven't joined the dots between that and all that good stuff of like looking after. So if we're making a very, very clear understanding, well, actually this is going to help with this, it's going to help with this, it's going to help with that, then it becomes like, you know, you can really start to make a big impact on how we can affect people's individual health, but also population health as well.
If they did bump back the 64%, so went back up to 100%, just use that as a number, in your line of work, what would like the difference be? Like, how much more improvement would there be? Like, more facilities? Would there be better equipment? Would there be better wages? Like, what way would that be able to go about?
I think
So that's actually kind of piqued my interest a little bit.
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So if we did go, there's so many different factors in that, and there's economic, there's political, there's preferences, there's all kinds of different things. But I think, like, I come to Liverpool 2008, capital of culture, so a big economic boom, just money was here, different political situation. So you could probably see an example of where, things were looking like prosperous. There was good stuff going on, tourism, everything was all getting built. It was all looking really, really presentable and long term. So I'd say that would be nice to be seeing that, wouldn't it? To kind of like see that kind of happening. But I do think, and I'm not avoiding your question, but I do think that when things are depleted a little bit, right? So the 100%, your power bar's gone down to whatever, but we've got to think of different ways to achieve the same thing. So innovation, the value of kind of thinking and doing things in a different way, that becomes more valuable, doesn't it? So you'll like, the amazing thing about humans is we'll find a little way to kind of solve a situation. So there's different perspectives and different ideas that come in when things are kind of when the resources are low. Do you know what I mean? We adapt and we change. So I think that innovation. So I think what I'd really like to see is that innovative mindset of how you can do more with less, still relevant and still happening when there is a time of more. But it tends not to happen, doesn't it? When there's times of, we go through peaks and troughs, don't we, of kind of loads of good stuff going on, economic boom, jobs are plenty, and then we get the little slump here. So it'd be nice to know that we could have a bit of innovation and kind of problem solving going on, even when, we're kind of giving ourselves a massive buffer zone. But yeah, how would it look? What, in a utopia? I'd love to see water slides and just all kinds of. I'd like to see, whatever the shape the world's going to be, I'd like to see health and well-being prioritised at the top. So an understanding that, like we said at the beginning there, that there's a consequence to not allowing people to be physically active, mentally and physically. So if we're saying, right, we're going to put health and well-being at the top of the agenda, then that kind of trickles down to all other kind of areas of interest. You know what I mean? So if you've got a happy population, you've got a healthy population, you've got a prosperous population, you look at, so it's I think that's the new approach, is by making sure that we can do our utmost to look after each other, make sure that we're physically and non-physically kind of well, then all the other stuff kind of falls into place.
Yeah, because they say, don't they, that health is wealth, and obviously if you don't have your health, you don't have anything, do you? Yeah. Have you ever seen the video where the fella goes round and you say to someone, if I offered you, if I give you £1 million, would you accept it? Yeah, but you can't wake up tomorrow, would you accept it? No. Yeah. So it just goes to show, isn't it, that we're all worth our health. We all need to have it, and obviously sports is I've grew up playing sport. I go to the gym. He works out a lot. Joe's played sport and goes to the gym, goes on runs. Yeah, it is all about keeping fit and keeping healthy, and it's not trying to push it down people's throats and all. That's what you have to do all the time, no matter what. That's your main priority. But it is one of the biggest mandatory things for us to do, to be able to be fit, to be able to be healthy. Because if I'm not physically active, I feel mentally worse. I feel less productive. Yeah. I want to sit at home. I want to play the game. I want to eat bad food. Well, it's not bad food, but I'll have a bad diet. At that point, I'm just I need to get up, go into the gym, go and play football, whatever it is. I think Jay's got a question.
I was going to say, I think health should be the top priority, because at the end of the day, if you're not healthy, how, and say you've got kids or family, your family rely on you, but if you haven't got your health, then it's hard to be there for your family at the same time. And as you say, without your health, you've got nothing. So it should be, for me personally, I think it should be everyone's top priority, your health.
We'll go into that, hypothetical thing with the billionaire. He's spent a life of just absolutely accumulating wealth. Yeah. And then you're on your deathbed and it's
you can't buy health.
The amount of people that have, stepped over to get here, and family that have sacrificed and all that type of stuff. Obviously, we're talking hypothetically, but it's quite a common thing, in it, when people have the reality that it's just a lie, innit? Whatever you're kind of accumulating in terms of money and finance, we need certain things in our lives, don't we? We need shelter, we need food, we need all those things. But if it's your single pursuit to just go after the ready, like that's all you're going for, you've missed out. Your focus is all that peripheral stuff that's really, really important. You've missed out on. But going back to in terms of like prioritizing it, if we know that, as we said before, this ill health thing. So, if you're kind of not able to do the things that you want to do physically and non-physically, then it results in kind of ill health, which we know. Then you have to ask for other things, don't you? You need support. You need other things to come to you, which is not you're disabled in a way by like kind of like asking for these things. Whereas I think one of the great things about physical activity is that you actually invest, don't you? Mm-hmm. So if you're doing something, you're investing in yourself, and that's where someone says it would be great that like, you know, well-being is at the top of the agenda and like prioritize. Well, it is in yourself, isn't it? So if you choose to do that, then you've already invested in that, and I think that kind of message gets like really. It's kind of like you've been to gym environments, you've been to places where it's all kind of like a shared kind of community. It's a positive vibe, isn't it? It's like a positive pub, isn't it? You know, where people used to used to congregate in like clubs and working men's out, all that type of stuff, because it was leisure time. You know, I'm away from work, I'm gonna do this. Now it's like, right, well, actually, you can go somewhere, feel good about doing something with a group of people you identify with, like, or maybe not, a different group of people, but you're actually all sharing the same experience, and that value once again becomes more again, doesn't it? And then that news spreads on. And so that's what I'm saying, is that when the finance side to it, so going back to your 100% thinking, right? So when the finance element becomes minimal, right, that you know, we haven't got a focal point collectively on the money, then all the other values become a little bit more, don't they? All those other senses we're allowed to kind of explore how they could be more relevant to our life. So that's the little bit that gives me great optimism for the future, is like, well, shared experience, shared values, us all kind of like working in a positive way together. And that's like really empowering in itself, isn't it, for individuals and for communities? So,
I was going to say, could I just ask, like, obviously it's a really good thing that you are doing. You know what I mean? So hats off to you. You've probably made us realise a little something as well. What are your services that you offer or you provide? Or, like, so I know it's not like you provide a lot of knowledge to people, but do you offer any kind of services yourself for people who want to get this help?
So in terms of like the individual things that I'm doing, so like what I'd be offering for you came to me. So obviously I'm working for a local authority.
Okay.
So people who work for the local authority have all kinds of different jobs, don't they? So someone's going to be in this service, some over here, someone's going to be shift workers and all that. So I'll try and like have a conversation about what's going to work for them and how we can access things. Okay. The things that we can provide are like, you know, we've got access to the local authority kind of like leisure centres and gyms, so we can do. We've managed to secure that, so they can access that. Then I'll try and, you know, be completely understanding, and where possible, go to them to go and do stuff. So as the weather's getting better now, I'll go to a green space, walk and talk, little boxing set up outside.
Like a lot of personalised
coaching. So I'm having a conversation about, so basically, but taking that coaching route is like, today we're going to do this, and that, and it's on a spreadsheet, and that's what you're going to do. Someone might come to you on that day and be like, today I've just had this news, I've just had this, that, and you're like, let's go for a walk. You adapt it, you flip it to make it relevant to what their situation is. And that's once again just that interplay with having a good rapport and really understanding what someone's communicating to you, and how you can facilitate that to them. So I know that's a dead vague answer. It's not going to be like, oh yeah, this is for A, this is for B, it's like, right, well, what's working, what's going on, you missed church today, you're not feeling too good, we're going to go there now, and we're going to do burpees. So it's you know, it's whatever's going to work for that individual, and then trying to adapt.
How would somebody like come through to your services? So obviously you're through the council, so would that be something the GP has recommended them to come see you?
It's a good question, because like from working on the health programmes, which was all about a very clear patient pathway. So your medical professional would send you over, and then, you know, there'd be a bureaucratic kind of pause or lag whilst there's a waiting list, and whilst there's this, and whilst whatever goes on. So learning from that, what I've said is that they just come direct to me. So there's no cues, there's no management approval, there's no process, if you like, which is good and bad depending on people's how they do it, but straight over, and then we get the conversation going, and then we start working on whatever's going to be right for that individual. So it's a very once again, it's an open kind of access route. But I think learning from other health programs I've been on, it's the best way to make it accessible to an individual. And it's either a quick email, quick phone call, and then you've made it.
Is like a normal, like a particular age range that comes to you?
Well,
so for instance, I wanted to come to you because I needed help with whatever it was. Would you be more open? Like obviously, you'd be open to anyone, but is it like more of the younger generation, or is it more like people that need more of that assistance and you help?
So there's within the population of the workforce there, it's represented by the population of the bigger, the Liverpool or nationally or whatever. So anyone who's working between 18 and retirement age, by the time we retire, be about 98. So it's like anyone. So we need to stay active. But that's the population. So it's adults. So they're going to come over now. Everyone's got obviously different physical activity ability levels, haven't they? But everyone's still. So you might be fit, active, mobile. All kinds of good numbers coming off your lifting and times on your runs and all that. But feeling bad at the moment. Things that your motivation's down, your mood's down. You're not you. You. The numbers are saying from the outside, this is all good, but it's not you. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, this isn't feeling right. This isn't something not quite clicking. So that is just as valid as someone who's 78 and got extended care responsibilities for all kinds of family members, but is struggling with full-time work and arthritis or whatever's going to be that. So those are still as relevant to each other, aren't they? But so you've got to find a way through individually to make that vehicle of physical activity help that individual. So that once again takes people skills and what I'd like to do long term is that something like this was available for outside of employment. So if it was to be part of the kind of like primary care trust or to be part of the clinical commissioning groups where go to your GP and then they'd assign you a wellbeing kind of like someone and they could talk through what was going to be the best route for you. So that'd be a really good way to kind of scale up what I'm doing. But we'll see how that comes together. So
I feel like I kind of want to work with you. I feel like I want to come to you after this. It's like the way that you speak.
We recruit everywhere. I've got my little diary, so I've got rated
because like the way that you come across.
Yeah.
Is like you've said, like basically I'm just this, like from when we first spoke about being like a well-being. Well, Ray said you're a well-being officer.
Yeah.
But the way that you're saying and like the way that you describe the job that you do and the type of people that you work with and how you work with them, it sounds like you're like a mentor, a PT, a life coach, anything else that comes under that umbrella of that type of work. It feels like you put it all into one, and then obviously you distribute the type of work that you do depending on the client or the person, I should say, that comes in.
Yeah.
It's
I think once
admirable.
Again, that goes. Yeah, it's nice of you to say, but I think that kind of comes in with like we understand going back to this like service and kind of like profit-driven thing is we understand things in different sections. You know what I mean? So you've got like what you mentioned, those different kind of strands or branches of what I'm doing, but that's all just being a person, isn't it? It is, yeah. So you don't get paid, do you, to be a son or to be an uncle or to be a godfather or whatever. You just these are things that you have that are important to you that sometimes get put on you, but they're not roles. You know what I mean? They're not burdens to have, are they? They're just different things that you can kind of vehicle for different people. So it's having that kind of, once again, that centralized thing that you were talking about, the motivations, is being able to kind of develop yourself at the same time as potentially helping other people, because everyone's got offerings, haven't they? There's no like one, I'm not going to get J&J and be like, right, well, yeah, I've done this one, I have that one, copy and paste, bang, I've done one, copy and paste. It's like they're going to be talking to me independently about, I'm training with Jay, and sometimes all I want to do is like just go swimming or go, I fancy doing this or whatever it's going to be, and that's the avenue you got to do, because that's the way that it's going to be long term for them, isn't it? So yeah, having that kind of like payoff with providing something that's very, very broad in like, there's so much going in. But the way that you narrow that down is engagement, it's having a conversation, it's being human, isn't it?
Yeah, so say, because like your title is no longer a wellbeing officer, your title is Jay. I'm going to see Jay. It's not I'm going to see me wellbeing officer.
Yeah, but there could be other Jays, couldn't there? You know what I mean?
But you know what I mean?
It's, I do know what you mean, but it's like it's but that's how we should be engaging, isn't it? It's like,
so you focus a lot on like physical, like obviously that helps the mental too. But would you say it's more focusing on the physical side of things, or like as you said before, like you listen to like the moods as well. Like if they want to go to church, then guess what? We're going to church. So
you've stepped into spiritual
physical,
medical, mind, body and soul. We've got it all.
Is it more like the physical, or is it more towards the mind?
It's once again going back into that kind of like role of a human, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we've got to have an absolute understanding that we are not just one thing, are we? We're not physical, we're not mental. We got all of that going on. So I'm not a mental health professional by any means, right? But I am interested in different types of people, and where I've got experience or something I can offer that could be rewarding to their health and well-being, then I'm going to offer that. So that in itself can be quite... if someone's not had any contact, if someone's not had that, if you can... there's a walking group going on here on a Wednesday, there's this going on. And obviously tying in with those professional services that already exist. But in terms of the physical versus mental, it's like, not versus, but how that kind of interplay works. I think it's mentally unwell to think that, by just looking at one specific component of your life, it's isolated. There's fleets and fleets of academic papers out there about how physical and non-physical all work together. And as we said there, we've kind of all experienced that. So, to kind of just be concentrating on one is there's specialisms for certain really, really detailed clinical things that you need to be looking at, like knee replacements or, really, really detailed kind of like non-physical interventions. But on a broad sense, you can kind of engage people, and as long as you're making a tiny millimetre forwards that they're happy and healthier, then I think I've done my job. So, you're making those millimetres, and then that you're making progress, aren't you?
Yeah.
I like that. So say if someone was to come to you, there's obviously what we're about like majority of our stuff is about mental health. So if someone was to come to you and there was no like physical injuries or anything like that, and it was purely down to like mental. Yeah. How long would it be roughly? Obviously, depending on the person, depends on the time scale, but how long roughly would it be before you can figure out what you need to do to help them?
I'd probably take more of a proactive approach compared to like the other kind of services. So like, I remember doing a course where we were talking about facilitating physical activity to people who might never have used it. And it was like a 12-week kind of like, very progressive program to get them from, right, okay, we'll have a consultation. So what would you like to do? Okay, when would you like to do it? And you do like a series of kind of like very communicated steps to get there. But my whole approach is like, right, whilst you're doing those like little steps to get to that place, get them onto something moving, and we're doing the activity whilst we're kind of like planning it, rather than sitting there and being stagnant. If the goal that you're doing is to increase, physical activity, then let's find a way to make that happen. And then as you're doing it, then you're progressing it further rather than waiting 12 weeks to actually get to that stage. So I do try and kind of like accelerate things a little bit, but within, driven within safe parameters of what that individual needs. But I'd say like you've got to give time scale to things that work within structures and organisations. So my little scheme lasts, I've got different things, like a 4-week one, 6-week one, 8 and a 12-week kind of thing. So depending on the level of what's required for that individual, I kind of work off that time frame. And then I've tied in like a little aftercare thing. So there's, contact afterwards. So we go through, and then there's always someone available, because the concept that someone's going to be fixed within 12 weeks, because like we said before, everyone could always improve in some way. That's development, isn't it? Everyone can always improve their physical and non-physical health a little millimetre again. So there's always that little aftercare kind of like idea that you can always kind of engage whenever you need to. So we've given those fixed time frames, and then this idea that there's always kind of continuous support, because, you know, it's sustainable, isn't it? Life changes, different health situations, different injuries potentially. You could be getting different preferences, different jobs. So all of that needs to kind of be flexible within what you're offering. So so that's how I manage the kind of time frame of it.
Oh, that's good. That, you know, like I like that a lot. Say, because I feel like I might need a knee replacement one day, so I might have to get your number after this, Jay.
It's interesting, isn't it? You start hearing things like with the terminology with the doctors, well, of like pre-diabetic and pre-high cholesterol, but that's everyone, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? If you choose to do, you know, if you're unavailable doing that, we're all pre-diabetic, we're all pre-something, aren't we? So we've not got there yet. So how do we, make sure we don't? But I can understand why they've changed the terms to make it a little bit more kind of motivational. You give a medical name to something, and people kind of like move it. You know, they get busy with it, don't they? But I don't know the exact numbers, but it's basically where they looking at the blood sugar levels and saying that you're not quite diabetic, but you're on the way. But like I was saying there, so there is a number value to, or pre-hypertensive, you know, your blood pressure. But the what's it called? We're all there, aren't we?
Yeah,
you know, from the moment we're born, we're all that way. So
Haribos this morning for breakfast, so
it's a good start.
yeah. you're on your way. And a pack of skills.
Do you notice though, like when people come to you, and then let's say for instance it is 12 weeks, the 12 weeks pass by, you've done more physical activity, you've done mental work with them, you've got to know them more, they've opened up more. Do you notice that the vast majority, because it might be hard to say every single person, but the vast majority of people that you work with do leave in a better place?
I'd like to think so, but you'll have to ask them. But that evaluation process of, we do look at certain things. So because it is so based around the individual needs, it's very hard to have like a standardized process. But if I was to have a standard process, I'd do like, body assessment, so percentage body fat, BMI, muscle content, bone density, all that stuff, which we can do within body analyzers. I get blood pressures done, so you're getting that done, potentially like VO2 max, those physical things. And then they've got certain scales, haven't they, where you've got the GLAD-7, you've got like WEMWEBS, which is like another recognised kind of like mental health scale where you go through a certain, I think WEMWEBS is a bit nicer, it's a bit softer in the questions they ask. But yeah, you've got measurements that you can kind of look at how you can evaluate what's happened. So all that goes on. But as I said, if you're in, kind of like, I don't know, Sefton Park, and someone that you're doing a little walk and talk around Wavertree, you're not going to be there saying, right, we've got to get you on we've got to get you doing your body stats now, we're going to do your blood pressure out here by the park. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's not practical to do it. So I think having that engagement just with talking is a really nice way to see how they're feeling, but to give some evaluation to feelings and the kind of non-physical side to it. I've kind of like, independently of me role, I'm doing a postgraduate, so with the physical activity exchange with LJMU, and that's looking at motivations, perceptions, and experiences of people engaging on the scheme. So that's an external evaluation kind of like method of looking at how that can work. So that's all about feelings, all about talking, all about extended interviews, all about this type of stuff, which is it's going to be interesting to see how that works. And that's a whole new area where I'm kind of like, like I said, from the not ideal structured education in school to now doing a postgraduate and researching on a project that I'm really passionate about. So it's kind of development for myself to have like the practitioner side, the doing of it, and then the research of the practice. And the whole idea is that you can develop the practice into something that's going to be a little bit more widespread, you know, so it's not just not myself.
I don't want to like go off topic, but
Yeah.
I just want to touch up a little bit there about what you're saying about you doing your post grad now. But obviously, being a lad that was in school and you not the traditional academia that you got with being dyslexic,
Yeah.
but now the work that you're doing, the way that you speak,
Yeah,
the way that you come across, you seem very. Like you've had a high education from a very young age. Like
nice
you
to
like you
say.
came up like that. But how have you found it
That's
though?
it.
Like
Yeah.
being in university and now doing the postgrads.
I'll tell you, it's a good question, but that is an area of huge issues for me with background, because I think when you're a kid, right, so when you disempowered, you've got no opinion, you've got no choice, you've got no direction, you're in a system that is completely out of your control, and you're being told you're lazy and stupid, and then you're getting into the appropriate environments for you, which is basically they put you in a room with naughty children. So that's your education.
Yeah.
You're out the way, you know. So that's interesting, because that was majority of me school life was like that. So
Was you a naughty child?
no, I was never naughty, but when it's when you got the choice of either going along with being naughty or you know what I mean? You go. It's the only bit of thing you can have, isn't it? Of it being a bit. But I was never naughty. I was. I was just, you know.
Was you just a kid?
I was a kid. Yeah, I was a kid. I wasn't doing anything like silly, but that's your experience of a structured education environment. So to re-engage with that at a later stage in life, so I was 38 when I started my undergraduate, right? So 38 years of age, bad experiences with school, me amazing wife kind of like, she was like, listen, because I've been banging on about all these joined up ways of thinking for a long time. And she was like, you need to do something about this. You need to articulate yourself in a different way. So that's where I kind of like went back to uni. And that was like a really good thing for me to do. Like my attendance was like 4%, because obviously I was working full time. So it was all, you know, with the online learning stuff. So it was all really, really good stuff to be able to engage with. But it just meant my days were long, really long. So which was nice, because I was able to kind of like develop those things. But going back to the articulate, I mean, one of the things I've identified from that is when I'm at my worst. Like, so it doesn't take me much to be pushed back to that bad experience, because that's what you've never made sense of, that trauma that you've had when you kind of like, it's all happening for you. So I think in a way, like me returning and doing all these things now is me making sense of all that in a way that I'm a little bit more kind of empowered to do that. But it's still, you still get the things, and there's different steps of the way, because what we're talking about now is a very joined up way of like making a bit of a positive difference. But academia is a very systematic way of doing stuff. So you do have to fit into those kind of like systems and processes, because that's the way it's done. So even though universities really, really moved into a way that they recognise that people might learn and understand things in a different way and apply those things in a different way, there's an acceptance of that. But like to articulate that, what we're talking about now, articulate that in a way that's like understood in a research concept, it's a challenge. So it's an ongoing challenge, but it's definitely getting easier. But yeah, so once again, you're returning back to this, but it's an interesting interplay. But that for me is like, you start to, you know, little bits like this can communicate in a way that makes sense to other people, and you saying that you get what I'm talking about. That's something that I question all the time. I was like, what am I banging on about here? Is it my fooling myself here, or is this like real? But it's a shared reality, isn't it? So people are kind of, with the great thing about physical activity is by doing something, you've experienced something. It doesn't need to be questioned. It's happened. So yeah, that's interesting how it's kind of made sense of things as the years have kind of like gone along, and then as you know, I'm using physical activity as a lens to make sense of those things, but I'm using the academic stuff and the postgraduate as a way to make sense of the past in a way, or resolve issues. You know what I mean? So it's a healthy way to do it, isn't it?
It is, to be fair. I was just say, like, the path that you've been on, the work that you do, obviously from school to undergraduate, now to postgraduate, the way that you are, like I said, the way that you come across, you've come out at a very good end, to say the least. You've come out at the right side. Very professional, but a good man as well. Like, you just come across and you feel like you're a fella that you could just talk to all day and you won't be able to give the help.
Yeah.
But obviously, if there's been children now, in the past, in the future, that are in the position that you were once in, how could we help them, maybe, or something like that?
Something I query, to be honest, because like, I went back into education at the same time as my boy was going into school. So he was going into reception, I was going into undergraduate. In my mind, because I had no question at all, I just thought I was throwing him into a meat grinder that was going to end up with the same results. I was like, I'd not talked it through. I was angry with words, didn't want any books in the house with the kids and stuff, and just thought that was it now. We've had a great stint for 4 years, but now he's going to get miserable, he's going to get horrible, you know what I mean? That was unquestioned for me. And obviously, like, my wife kind of gave me a bit of a reality check on, like, where my head was at, but it was still a major concern for me. So we kind of, like, got into school at the same time as uni. Then the positive experience that I was having with university, and we kind of went off at the same trajectory of, like, kind of, you know, expressing yourself, getting friendly with words. So he might have a similar way of seeing the world in the way that I do, but without having any of the accumulated anxieties of, like, and labels and all of that stuff being put out the way and all that. He might just be able to explore the world. Well, he definitely is, in a way that makes sense to him, and that it's not restricted and it's not barriers. So I think that once again gives a little bit of an insight into a positive, like, tomorrow, is that, like, maybe the world has changed a little bit, and if you can express yourself in a way that you really resonates with your soul, do you know what I mean? You can just say the things, do the things, feel the things that make sense to you without being restricted and confined. Those are the issues. That's where you start to get the internal anxieties. You're closing down. You're not quite able to express how you feel because it's never been allowed to happen. So I'm obviously making up for it now, like, in terms of the way that I, like, explore expression and all that. But I think that, in answer to your question, gives a little bit of an insight into, like, maybe the world has changed a bit. But I think, and I often talk about this with my brother and sister, I had the same experiences, is it worth having the negative for the long-term positive? Do you know what I mean? Does that shape you, that resilience, that, you know, whatever you want to call it, does that build motivating factors into how you kind of, like, where your application, where your energy is and all that, does that build it? Is it like, and it, you know, there's probably some truth in that, and I think that maybe if I could take it all away and just have the experience that I had as a university student, as a kid, I don't know, would I be able to doing the things I'm doing now? Would I be making sense of the world in the way that I'm doing now? You just don't know, do you? But I think everything that happens to you for a reason, and then you just need to make sense of that in your own way as to how that can be of value to you and how that could be of value to other people.
Yeah, because I feel like all of us in here, we've all got, like, a story behind us, whether that's big, whether that's small, but obviously then that defines what we measure as big or small.
Yeah.
But, like, personally, I do feel like you need to go through them bad times. You need to have a traumatic experience. You need to have a really bad relationship, or just a really bad moment in life, whatever, that makes you realise that, one, that's not where you want to be.
Yeah.
You don't want to experience that again, but also you may not want anyone else to go through a moment like that. Obviously, especially if you're a bit of a human, you've got a bit of empathy. But I feel like they are needed. As if I didn't go through, like, my mental health stages, I don't think I would be doing this today, because obviously this is a mental health podcast, and then I don't think if the lads gone through what they've gone through themselves, they wouldn't be here helping out today, because at the end of the day, this is a cause of what we want to do, and that's why we ask like yourself and that to come on, because you're given a cause in your own way to the world, and we'll obviously come together and spread the message. But I do think that we do need it. Otherwise, we're just living in a world that's just like this little bubble that keeps us safe.
I think everything you said, I completely agree with. And I think what's really, to emphasise how important that is like, as the world is developing and we're getting so much more technologically based, it makes us be able to do amazing things like podcasts. But it also means that there's automation going on, there's things, processes, and kind of like AI coming up where it's taken away from the AI stuff.
He's got an AI business.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, with that interplay, that kind of like symbiotic thing between humans and robots, right? Right. So they need to be our servants, don't they? In a nice way. We can't have that. So it's that catch-22. So in a world where we're going to be having like more and more ethical choices based around practicality with technology, right? We need to be rushing to humanity. We need to be finding the things that connect us as individuals and us as humans, and then putting that back into how that best serves us as humans, right? So re-engaging with feelings, re-engaging with conversations, re-engaging with everything that like is kind of healthy for us, because it does, you get that positive feedback the moment you are engaging with someone in a healthy way. And that's the bit that we should be really, really running to, and like making sure that that's a priority. And I think that obviously health and well-being, mental and physical, go into that, don't they?
When it comes to like the health and well-being, and you get people coming towards you, obviously with the world of technology, how fast it's escalating, but you do get more and more people sitting in front of the telly, looking at the phones, iPads, PlayStations, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're cutting themselves off more and more from the world, and more from human interaction. Can you notice that in more people that you come across now?
Well, I think
and like
we could all notice
anxieties and going outside.
Well, I think because I'm like of an age now where we're all affected with technology. We've all got one or two phones, depending on what you're up to. You've got your things happening and whatever's going on with your AI business and that. But I was going to say then. So we're all engaged and a bit too engaged, aren't we? Like I caught myself before. I think I was reviewing like what's sent over in terms of themes, and I was like, that was my task on my phone, to look at that. And then the next thing, you're like checking out the storm situation for putting up the bike shed again, and then you're on to, and you've been stood there scrolling in the kitchen for like 15 minutes. You know what I mean? And that's just like a typical thing, isn't it? You probably do that 15 times a day. So we're all involved in engaging with it a little bit too much, aren't we? So in terms of like, do I notice other people doing that? I think we're all doing it a lot, aren't we? And then being able to do something where, I mean, you all train, don't you? So I actually love, you go somewhere, you've got your heart rate monitor on, you've got your thing on, but when you leave a session, you've not had any inkling to look at your phone. You've not had any distractions with notifications. You've come out, I feel absolutely amazing there. You're like, when was the last time you had it? Like, and it's a sad case, isn't it? An hour or 90 minutes away from, like, it's like
time for yourself.
It's just you versus you, isn't it?
Yeah. We don't have that, do we? So you don't have that like time.
I get a good 90 minutes to myself.
You got your phone with you. Did you take that book in?
Yeah. Page by page. Done it 4 times.
So that's it. It's like the more you get into that, the further away you get in from the real world. But what is the real world? Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, if we're all experiencing the reality of like kind of physical activity and its benefits, then that's a good thing to share, as opposed to like, well, what does that Instagram post mean for you or you or you? You know what I mean? So, but I do notice people are engaged. Like,
I noticed the one big thing for me is that obviously people say if you go and do like a sport or go to the gym, go for a run, it helps clear your head. And the biggest one for me is that me and my girlfriend had a bit of a disagreement, and I went to football and I was a little bit annoyed still. But we went there, it was when I first came to the Tuesday football and you were playing on your 110s.
Nice one,
yeah, you're welcome. And
last time you come to footy with your armbands
on? But when I got there, we played footy, we played for the hour, and when I left, oh my God, I felt so good.
Yeah.
I felt amazing. I was like, oh, can't wait to go home now. But even though when I got there, I didn't want to go back home at that moment in time.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show that, and obviously that's just my own personal thing and my own personal sport. But that goes to show that getting that exercise in will help you, obviously physically, and that's what we all need, but it's going to help you mentally so much.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you have a look at all the things that we do outside the phones, but everything that you get in to make your life easier. So, you know, you get most people getting up in the morning, jumping in a car, getting in some terrible traffic to go in a kind of metal box to go to a place you don't want to go to. It's like everything about that's stressful, isn't it?
yeah.
There's no way, there's zero chance that you're going to walk out loud and go like, oh, that's good, you know. Oh, really buzz that. So, and it doesn't just start when you get in your car. It starts the night before when you've, oh God, that's coming and this. So you're constantly in this kind of like stressful situation, aren't you?
Like the system's like designed for us to be unhappy, or
if we choose to, isn't it? Yeah. So you can choose to be in that, but it is very much, once again, going back to like, is it geared around people and feelings and expressions, or is it geared around function and systems and profit? And I think the things that as soon as you're going into something, it's going to be more aligned to kind of like taking away your individuality, taking away your humanity. Then yeah, it's right that we should feel bad about it. So there's a little key in there, isn't it? It's like when we are starting to feel a little bit like, hang on, this is, you know, learn from it. Like, how do I break out of this? How do I change this? Certain things you can't, can you?
Do you reckon it comes down to like what you value? So for instance, someone might not have a job. They might say, for instance, someone's been deported from a country and they end up landing in England. They've got a life here now that we don't value. We don't want to go to that 9 to 5 and we don't want to drive in that box car and get stuck in traffic. But to them, that could be one of the greatest things because they've able to get a car, they've able to get to a job that pays for bills, they've able to have a nicer house. But then obviously we might value is like, no, like that's not what our life is about. So it makes us unhappy. Because personally, and if you think I'm wrong, then obviously just tell me shut the fuck up. But the world is made to function. So obviously, like if you look at like Anne Connolly, Connolly, there we go. Yeah.
I thought,
I couldn't get my word out then.
I thought you meant the old 70s kind of like aerobics instructor who used to be on the TV, but no, that's someone different.
Yeah, no, like
Anne
actual
Connolly.
like actual ants. Like obviously they've got the hierarchies, they've got the queen ants, but all we should shut up. But the little ants, they will get the work done, and they would just be in a system. They would just work. But obviously, the way that the world is, the factories that we have, the work that we've got, everything that's been manufactured, we all need it. Yeah, we all need it to run, don't we? So everyone's a pawn, or if you want to use that analogy, everyone's a pawn and everyone's got a part to play, but there will be people that want to go in a different direction. So what I'm trying to say is, there is a function, but a lot of people don't fit into that function, or they don't want to fit into the function. There's a lot of people that are they just get on with it.
Well, that's you're totally right. There's different engagements with like different parts of life, and sometimes you'll fit into that one, sometimes that one. You know what I mean? People change, but the common threads that connect us all the way through life, they're the things that we should really kind of like prioritize. So they're the things that we should be grabbing hold of and saying, at a time where I might be a little bit kind of lost and not too sure what's going on, well, I need to do the things that make sense to me and that I know that I can take value out of, rather than, I don't know, just working for them. They're just, you know.
I think it comes down to like knowing who you are and finding out who you are. That's when you can kind of get a career doing what you want to do. Because if you're just told by the world what to do, then you're gonna listen because you don't know.
Yeah, to
yourself,
add to that as well. I remember when I went to therapy and my therapist Barbara, she was a great woman. She was great.
Shout out Barbara.
Yeah, shout out Barbara.
Barbara
but I always remember one thing that she said to me is that you don't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
Like you don't like being told by a hierarchy that you need to do this, and it really like resonated with me. Hence why I want to do the podcast. I've started online coaching. I want to do more because I'm in charge of it. Now, I don't know if that's an ego thing. I haven't really come to resonate with that just yet, but that was one thing that made me think, I don't want to work for someone. I don't want you telling me what to do, especially if I'm doing something right, and you come over and go, no, do it like this.
You'd rather be telling people what to do?
No, yeah, in a sense, yeah.
To the podcast, lad, you're late.
But maybe in a sense,
I'll do what I want, lad.
Maybe in a sense, that might be it. Like I said, I haven't completely figured that out, but I know that I don't want to be told what to do in this world. Like, let me live my life how I want to live it. And if I feel like I need help and support, then I will ask for that.
Yeah. Well, I think that comes down to your self-worth. If you believe that you can do it and, you know, you believe that you can achieve the things you want, then why not go for it?
Yeah, because for instance, say like if I came to work with yourself and you say, we're going to be doing this, this, and this, but no, I want you to do it like this, then I'll be open to that because I've come to you. Then I've come to basically be under your umbrella and you're going to help guard me. But I don't like a manager or a boss coming over going, oh, you need to stay behind the next 3 hours because we're short and you've got no choice.
Yeah.
No.
But then if you were going to, you went to your manager or boss and you're like, I think we can do this in a slightly different way, and they'd be like, oh yeah, Sam, well that means you can go home early.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, you've just solved that issue. It's the same thing. It's more productive.
Yeah,
but you've done it in a way that makes sense to you. And I don't know anyone who doesn't want to have more of a input into how to kind of like address issues that they're involved in. And I think when you start to get passive with just this, that, and that, which we've all done, everyone's done little things, then you give a little bit of yourself away, don't you? Because you're just going along with stuff, and then
I think one thing that really changed my life was taking responsibility for what I'm doing. Like, you know, as I say, I got laid off from a job that I've worked for like 5 years. Obviously, I went to Australia, then come back and went back to that job, and they laid me off like a week after being there. And instead of like being like, you know what, like that's that's bad the way they've treated. Like, I chose to go back to that job, knowing what it's like. So that's where, like, instead of blaming, I've took responsibility. Do you know what I mean? And it really has changed my life for the.
But how did you take responsibility for it though? If you got laid off, or do you mean going back as in like?
Well, I chose to go back to that place, knowing that
after us, or
after, and there's been the same issues in that job for a while, like agency getting laid off, people not getting contracts when they've been there for like 4 or 5 years, like so. That's my responsibility for not, you know, for going back to there. Like, I know what it's like, so then that's my fault. Do you know what I mean?
That makes complete sense then. Yeah. Instead of like just hating the world, you're like, well, actually, I'll take a step back, like have a look at what I've actually done and what's happened. I go, oh no, okay, I understand that.
Exactly.
I've got to crack on.
And you get your power back then, because it's like, instead of being like a victim, it's more like the
mentality.
You're owning the struggle. Like, it's on me. So only you can change it. Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing. So that's how I looked at it.
Well, that right there, you're looking after your health and well-being.
Exactly.
Because you're looking at it in a positive way.
Yeah. That's right.
I was going to say, have you ever gone into like any or thought about any kind of politics? Like how you can make changes like that? Only because I think you're really good at speaking, and you're obviously thinking like long term, and you could
stop you there.
I'm just saying, because you could be kind of making some kind of changes for local people.
Yeah, but isn't take the politics out? Isn't happening?
Yeah, he already is doing it.
Fair. So, I'm on about like a bit of a like getting involved, like you said with the GPs, and like bigger. Do you know what I mean? Making it mandatory.
Whenever I've said to people, and I'm really like into what they're saying,
and they say something like that,
they say like, oh yeah, it's like me saying to them, carry this forward into a world that's not ideal. Because we need to change that world. But I think that some of the overarching kind of themes and positive stuff that comes on from what we've been talking about with health and well-being, that goes into politics, doesn't it? So we were talking before about the cuts coming to Liverpool,
and that's what got me thinking.
Well, 64% cuts, but if we're able to demonstrate something whereby just looking after people and being more human is actually valuable to the city, which it will be, which you'd like to think it would be, then that we're that might have political
impact.
Resonance, that might like be okay. Well, this is good.
Well, they're doing that, so why can't the city council be doing more? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think if you have a look, to keep everything going with that level of like that challenge of like how you're going to cover those services with that level of like austerity. Everyone's doing a tremendous job, aren't they? Everyone's kind of done that, but it's just kind of making that a little bit more widespread, and so is that everyone can engage in a way that's going to be healthy. So
how could you get this more awareness out there then, to like get that message out to people? Because obviously people I don't know, people will want to hear that message, people will want to resonate with that.
I think one of the key things is like making sure that you said a word before, which is called autonomy. Right? So something I encourage is like self-autonomy, have an agency of your own health.
What's autonomy?
So taking responsibility in a way.
So having charge of your own kind of situation. So instead of like someone said victim before, and I think like when you kind of like you're not able to take charge of your own thing, you can get a little bit kind of the world can get a little bit kind of like overbearing, and but being able to do something that's like moving yourself forward, and I think that's a message, whether it's through what I'm doing or whether it's what people don't need to be involved in what I'm doing to do that for themselves, don't they? But where it's nice is that there's a facilitator, there's someone who can kind of like support those decisions, because you've got a bit more clarity, haven't you? You don't just feel you're on your own.
Do you do any social media work?
Very minimal, you know what I mean? So, because I'm not doing a service or a product, or I'm not selling anything, am I? All of these things now are free and available to everyone.
No, but it can still be a non-profit that the local council can get involved in. So basically, the local councils have like a budget that they'll have a pot. So I don't know how I don't even know if you've got like your own kind of business setup. But basically, you can offer a non-profit, basically like a charity service to a council, and that council has a pot, and like that's where politically. Yeah, but could be interested.
That's what I'm saying. Long term is that what I'm doing now, public service for local authority, right? That needs to be. Well, I'd like to see that more widespread. So this type of thing can go on more formally. So you've got more, and that's interspersed into like the primary care network, so the GP surgeries, into the clinical commissioning groups, into all kinds of different places where we're just kind of encouraging this well-being approach, which is all going to be about individuals.
So get on social media. I think social media, you'd have a message, and you'd
be a long message, won't it? So,
what's your proudest achievement in your career?
Probably we're not finished yet, are we? Yeah, we're not finished yet, but I think being able to articulate this in a way that's kind of makes sense and creates interest. Yeah, you know, that's something that's but there's a long way to go, mad long way to go, as we all recognise. So I don't think it's I wouldn't credit myself as achieving the stuff that I want to do yet, because
that's good. So you still got the motivation to go.
Yeah, it's rare when you you look back and you think, oh yeah, don't give yourself the odd little pat on the back, but it's not.
Do you feel like you're only just getting started?
Yeah, I feel nice. Like I was saying this the other day, because going back to uni so late, finding your stride, finding your voice. Yeah, it's such a, I don't want to say late stage in life, but a wise stage in life, right? So being able to have that empowerment, that experience, and kind of like, that's nice to just feel like you're starting off. Yeah. But then, the reality is, you look around, you start counting down the years, you're like, it's going to take a while, you know what I mean? But it's, that's, I suppose that's an achievement in itself. Yeah. Like just, being a little bit off the normal kind of like radar, not being a victim in terms of like what your experiences were you kind of like, what they were, you were projected to go from your experiences as a youth, and then into something which, I still feel like I'm developing.
Yeah. It feels like your hardships have like created your career kind of thing.
Got that opportunity, haven't they? So that's probably the biggest thing, is that everyone's like, think of Conan, when he's pushing that thing around there, they built a monster, didn't they? You know what I mean? When he's turning that wheel around, and then Arnie turns off and like destroys the whole.
What's this?
Conan the Barbarian. Is that?
Yeah,
Conan the Barbarian. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I was thinking like Captain Conan or something.
No.
It's in the blank faces.
Conan was a warrior, and he made a film, Conan the Barbarian. It was played by, it was in the 70s.
Yeah, Arnold, was Arnie's
or 80s. Yeah, it's an old film, but basically he was like this warrior and all, like the hair and all that.
They took him as a kid, and like they just got him working as a slave, pushing around this big block.
Oh, right.
But he went, it's that kind of like, edit where he's kid pushing a rock, and then next thing you know, he's Arnold Schwarzenegger as a barbarian. Then he goes around and kills everyone.
Gets his revenge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that's, I think, same as exercise, resilience, right? So if you're getting resistance, it builds a bit of strength, doesn't it?
It does.
You've got to,
push back.
You got to kind of like work through those kind of loads, and then there's some kind of like stimulus, and then there's some kind of growth from it. And I think that's really good for people to know, that it's if you're met with those kind of like barriers and things, that pushback or maneuverability creates an agile mindset, but also creates a bit of resilience, which is good to them.
Yeah, so one thing I really like about exercise, and it doesn't matter what type of exercise that you do, everyone loves to progress. Everyone loves to get to the next step in whatever factor of life it is, but you can always do that with exercise. And so if you went for a run, you can get a further run, a quicker run. If you go to the gym, lift more weights, lift longer. If you go and play football, you can adapt your abilities. There's always that type of progress, but then it also creates that resilience, and then also creates that determination to then get to the next step.
Yeah.
So if you can always do that in your life with exercise, think what you can do with a job, think what you can do for your family, think what you could do with whatever aspect of life that you do go into. Because if it's you v you, then you've already proven to yourself that you can achieve. And that's then now time, branch out, and then go and achieve something there, and whatever that is.
Yeah, it's a common theme. It's your identity, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know how to keep moving forwards, regardless of what's put in front of you, and that's something that's really key in it. But that can be missed out, because if people are waiting for their support, waiting for this, waiting for that, they might not gain those skills in order to kind of be able to solve that problem, which is quite, like I said, that takes a few years to kind of work it out, doesn't it?
Yeah, I do like it. And to be honest, I don't really have many more questions, because I feel like we covered a well-being budget. Have we covered it?
I think so, yeah.
A co-produced self-empowered health pathway.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah. Health and well-being as a common language. I feel like we have, haven't we?
Yeah.
People of both profit and then prioritizing health and well-being. I feel like we've covered everything that you've put forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you might have thought of?
No, I'm happy with that. It's
You're
all good.
happy with that? Have you got any questions?
So, looking back to when you were a kid, what advice would you give your child self from where you are now?
Okay, I'm privileged in a way that I can kind of do that, can't I? With what I was saying before, with like having my own kids and stuff, and I think the advice or the actions that I do from that is just like really encouraging healthy expression. You know, so sometimes that's going to be playing football, sometimes that's going to be having a guitar lesson, sometimes that's going to be writing creative stuff. So just making sure that you're able to communicate how you feel in a way that's appropriate for your situation. So I think by doing those things and being able to do those things, it's going to safeguard all those problems, those issues that like kind of, I think I went through, but I think they're preventable if you've always got a kind of a free-flowing kind of expressive route that you can jump into, and the more of them you've got, the more likelihood you're going to be able to kind of express yourself in a way that express how you're feeling. So that's the advice. You find different ways of saying things in physical and non-physical ways.
Good answer. Good question. Good answer.
It was a good question.
It was a good question. Yeah, have you got any, Joe?
No, we're all questioned out.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, Jay, I've really enjoyed this one today.
Yeah, me too, it's been good.
For the person, and speaking about myself, that's really into fitness and really into exercise and trying to push that onto people. You've given me like another eye-open to that type and then that part of the world. So
it's a nice joined up approach, and there is movements to go that way. So one of the biggest medical things they're doing now as a young doctor, they now teach a model called lifestyle medicine, which is all about that preventative stuff. So there's the clinical world's going that way. They're recognising, actually making sense and moving to an individual's needs are really going to be beneficial to health and in a global sense. So it's not just, we're talking about a very local kind of thing here, but there's bigger things that are moving on. So I'd like to think that in the future it will be a little bit more joined together, mind, body, spirit, so all of those things all contribute to making a happy and healthy world.
Do you read?
No.
I was gonna say, because you speak very well, so and you say a lot of big words, so I thought
big
you might
words.
read.
It's like I said, that was ironic. I've lost my words there. that when I went back to uni, and like I said, it wasn't so much like the learning of the uni, it was the knowledge that you could actually say how you feel. Like we're talking about expression, actually say what's in, and you just get different tools of doing it, don't you? So it's like that's quite nice to be able to hear that back from you. But it wasn't always the case.
Do you want to buy a book?
No way.
You're joking.
Trying to plug his book.
I'm joking. Yeah. All good though, yeah.
Absolutely pissed. Like, I love him. Yeah. But no, Jay, like seriously, thanks for coming on today, mate.
No worries, cheers,
I thought that was absolutely brilliant
Cool.
episode. Spoke well, done well,
Cool.
and hopefully this can resonate with someone. And
Fab.
you might get a few clients from us.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right,
you
then.
never
Nice
know.
one.
Yeah,
Cheers,
no worries.
guys. Ta.
Right, Joe, bang it. So yeah, that was Jay's episode. I know it was so educational, and you've definitely come away from it right now with a bit more knowledge, to say the least. I'm not gonna lie, because even like myself and the lads that were helping out today, we're really big on our fitness and understand about the priorities of like our mental well-being, our health well-being, our physical well-being. And he's really educated us as well. Don't know if that's maybe egotistical of us or whatever, but it is what it is. But I hope that you really did enjoy it. Please make sure that you give the video a like, comment, subscribe, anything like that. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye now.